The shadow ghost is not turning off the lights.
Right.
We can't see anything at all what's doing it. So, yeah, it's not visible to our eyes or our cameras. All the cameras sitting around are not catching him either.
Now, however, we have caught the lights on and off on the cameras themselves.
Oh, yes.
Not being able to see anything do it, but you can definitely see the light switching on and off.
And hear the switch snap and everything, but we don't see who did it. That is just craziness, you know?
You'd think you'd see something, a mist or a shadow or a blur of something, but yeah.
Nothing. We're not seeing nothing. A lot of times we'll be sitting here in the office and it'll sound like somebody's walking down the hallway past this office, and I'll look up and won't see anybody. Yep. Somebody's walking through though, but you won't see them. For the most part though, I will say they're not evil here.
No, not at all.
They
mischievous.
Yeah, when stuff gets misplaced, yeah.
Mischievous sometimes, but
they're not trying to cause anyone harm, or none of us. And it's a good coexistence, I think.
I do too.
That we've got going on here. I had somebody ask me if I was afraid to sleep in the building by myself because I do it so often. And I'm really not. I'm not afraid to sleep in this building. There's places in the building I will not sleep.
Right.
Because I am very uncomfortable. But that's the 3rd floor. I wouldn't sleep there. And I would not sleep in that bottom floor cell block. Absolutely not. Because I just know they're always there, and I feel like I'd be overstepping, or like they'd be looming over me or something. You know what I mean? Like I shouldn't be there sleeping all night. Right. You know, so I will not sleep in those areas. But
speaking of like sleeping, I mean, I know I've ran my recorder throughout the night, and I've heard plenty of voices, and I was sleeping down on the 1st floor by myself. And I don't know, it was probably 4 or 5 in the morning, and we had been up all night, like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was exhausted, and I woke up to hearing a man, like, yelling at me, but I was so tired, I just rolled over and told him to leave me alone, and I went back to sleep. I wasn't even scared at that point. I was irritated, because he was trying to wake me up.
And you hadn't been to bed long.
No, I was tired.
I would say I have been to some really interesting and fascinating places, I would say, is some of the old ghost towns. I went to one out in Nebraska some time back, and I would like to visit more of those. You know, those are so interesting to see, you know, how things were set up, and they're like abandoned now, you know. Yeah. And sometimes we come across one that was listed, you know, you can search up directories for abandoned or ghost towns, right?
Right.
We did come across a couple that were no longer there that might have just the shell of a barn standing, but there are still some that still have things from the town there, and they are haunted too. So
I've heard a lot about them. Never visited, would love to visit.
Right, and I didn't get to spend a lot of time at it, but I did get some evidence at one of them out in Nebraska.
Now, do they allow you to do overnight stays? Do you know?
There was no one to contact. It's just, I just went there and roamed around. Now, not too far away were neighboring, you know, areas with population, you know. Of course, any buildings that were there were locked and such, and I didn't force my way in or nothing like that. I'm not like that.
Yeah.
But I did get evidence outside in the local cemeteries, and it was still interesting. And I was out there because Vincent was stationed with his job out in Nebraska. So I went to Nebraska, and I'm like, what's going on? Let me see where I can go get myself into, And it's so interesting. He'd be working all day, and I'd be going and trotting around at all these little places, checking them out,
Keeps you occupied during the time.
But that particular one, him and one of his work friends from work went to that one, and it was funny because we were in a cemetery to a ghost town, and one of the guys that was with us, me and Vincent, sat down and started talking to a little girl's grave. And he sat down in front of the grave and thought he would try to see if he would get any EVP session, okay? Right. So he's talking to this grave, and I've got the portable Defender camera set up and filming the cemetery and where he's at to see if we get any kind of anything, right? So I'm reviewing the footage at my house, and while he's sitting there, a shadow walks across the cemetery, and I thought it was him, right? I thought he got up and moved.
Right, yeah.
But when I watched it back, he was still there, and it was another person. Not living.
Now, did it look like a child, or did it look more like an adult?
I thought it was him.
So more of a manly shadow figure.
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That was an extremely nice catch.
Yes,
so,
it was.
Beep from Chad. I don't know what the real name is, but they're in Florida. I will tell you, there are some places in Florida. And matter of fact, I love Florida. You're in Daytona, Daniel. Oh, you're in Florida too. Oh my gosh, I got a place to stay when I travel.
There you go.
I just love Florida. I mean, if I could just root down there right now, I would do it. I tell you that. There are some really interesting. Oh, beep is Ariel. Okay. There's some really interesting places that I've researched about that's down in Florida, and I would like to take time and make time actually and visit some of those. There's a mansion down there, and I think an old restaurant, and I would like to check them out. And plus, maybe try parasailing. I want to do that so bad. And Vincent's like, no way, I'll never do that. Fun. Did you do it?
I did.
Oh my gosh, I want to.
It's a lot of fun.
It looks so much fun. So, and not only that, there's places all over the United States that's still on my bucket list to go check out,
I've barely touched any on my bucket list, so I'm excited to get started on that.
Yes. Oh, Daniel says in chat, come to the world's most famous beach. Volusia County Courthouse is haunted. Oh, you know what? A lot of the historical buildings are haunted.
I have heard that. A lot of courthouses, I think, actually, as well.
Probably there's disgruntled spirits who's been sentenced to death or whatever.
Prison death.
Because back in the 1800s, all the counties were responsible for their own capital punishments. So a lot of them were either hanged in the jail courtyards or in the town squares at the county courthouses. So it's no wonder.
They're haunted for sure.
Absolutely. It's absolutely no wonder. Supposedly, Daniel says that the old judge is at the old courthouse, and I wouldn't doubt that because a lot of times, you find when someone is so into their job or that was their whole life, their whole life, or it was real important to them, or that's all they did or whatever, they are tied to that place, in death.
Yes, they are. I mean, hence the sheriff still being here within the jail.
And he's friendly with us enough,
And Gus, the jailer.
Yeah, and they are okay, but they're here. And that was his job, too, Gus. And Sheriff Keeler was the longest reigning sheriff here. That was mainly his whole career. But that's what I'm coming to find And even if it's not their entity, the intelligent entity.
Yes.
It's their residual that's left behind too. So
imprint stayed here.
Absolutely. So one way or another, these people are still tied to the places that were highly important to them. And have I put roses in the jail yet? Ariel says in chat. I haven't put any roses here in the jail, but I did plant some hyacinth flowers out front, and it's really, really nice. And they grew back this year too. I was surprised.
Bonus.
Yay. I find that the lilacs and the hyacinth is just a calming fragrance. And lilac is also supposed to be good for spiritual and psychic abilities. And I kind of think that is the case. It's really calming, kind of euphoric for me, that smell.
Yeah.
And Ariel was telling me to try inside the jail for spirits. Roses. I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about roses.
I'll look it up and see what we come up with. Daniel in chat says his late mother was psychic for over 50 years. So all of us 5 kids are sensitive of some type or have some ability. You know, and that's another thing I find interesting too. I am a people watching person. I pay a real close attention, and I've got the ability of claircognizance in regards to people, and I can see when people have abilities. I see it in their eyes, and most times I'm spot on with who has special abilities. And with that, I tell you what, everyone, we'll be right back after this short break with more Ghost Talk. You are listening to WBHM DB out of Birmingham, Alabama.
You're listening to WBHM Digital Broadcasting, the best in paranormal talk, only on Paranormal Experienced Radio, broadcasting live out of Birmingham, Alabama.
It is 45 minutes past the hour. Welcome back to Ghost Talk Radio with me, Shelly Robertson, as your host. If you have just tuned in, tonight I am joined with Kristin Boyd. We've been discussing some personal experiences, and